declare thy righteousness and thy works, for they shall not profit thee when thou criest, let thy companies deliver thee. But the wind shall carry them all away, vanity shall take them. But he that putteth his trust in me shall possess the land, shall inherit my holy mountain, and shall say, cast ye up,
Cast ye up. Good morning. Welcome to Line by Line Bible Studies. We're continuing today in Proverbs, chapter 12, verse 20. I almost said 20, but that would have. I was halfway there to 12 also. All right, we're gonna read about 10 or 15 verses into the next chapter because we may get there. I don't know. We'll just say 10. Deceit is in the heart of them that imagine evil, but to the counselors of peace is joy. There shall no evil happen to the just, but the wicked shall be filled with mischief. And we did talk about that a bit. Lying lips are an abomination to the Lord, but they that deal truly are his delight. A prudent man concealeth knowledge, but the heart of fools proclaimeth foolishness. The hand of the diligent shall bear rule, but the slothful shall be under tribute. Heaviness in the heart of man maketh it stoop, but a good word maketh it glad. Verse 26. The righteous is more excellent than his neighbor, but the way of the wicked seduceth them. The slothful man roasteth not that which he took in hunting, but the substance of a diligent man is precious. In the way of righteousness is life, and in the pathway thereof there is no death. Let's read a little in the next chapter. Even if we don't get here, I like the reading part. It wasn't long enough. Okay. A wise son heareth his father's instruction. It's like getting pre-marinated, you know? But a scorner heareth not rebuke. A man shall eat good by the fruit of his mouth, but the soul of the transgressors shall eat violence. I like that. He that keepeth his mouth keepeth his life, but he that openeth wide his lips shall have destruction. The soul of the sluggard desireth, and hath nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made fat. A righteous man hateth lying, but a wicked man is loathsome and cometh to shame. Righteousness keepeth him that is upright in the way, but wickedness overfloweth the sinner. We're going to do that again. 1 second. Okay. I'll try verse 6 again. Righteousness keepeth him that is upright in the way, but wickedness overthroweth the sinner. There is that maketh himself rich, yet hath nothing. There is that maketh himself poor, yet hath riches. It's a proverb of my life. The ransom of a man's life are his riches, but the poor heareth not rebuke. Interesting. The light of the righteous rejoiceth, but the lamp of the wicked shall be put out. Only by pride cometh contention, but with the well-advised is wisdom. Wealth gotten by vanity shall be diminished, but he that gathereth by labor shall increase. And I think there's the good old, hope deferreth maketh the heart sick, but when the desire cometh, it is a tree of life. Well, look at this one. Whoso despiseth the word shall be destroyed, but he that feareth the commandment shall be rewarded. Okay. The law of the wise is a fountain of life to depart from the sin. The Proverbs is full of wisdom, right? Like all things, it has to be applied. Like I said, there's a lot of things about keeping silence, but we know we can't always keep silence, right? It's just there's a wisdom in keeping silence. There's a wisdom in speaking. You must speak with wisdom. You must not speak with wisdom. You know what I mean? You must build with wisdom. You must refrain from building. You must embrace with wisdom and refrain from embracing with wisdom. All the time for every purpose. Sometimes there's a time and a way to make war. In the time you're living in, it's going to be different. Maybe necessarily. So as a Christian, I look very seriously at the idea that the weapons of our warfare are mighty through God. They are not carnal. I don't need an M16. I have the Word of God. That's a far more effective weapon if I want to kill people. Truly. Because their disobedience is their death. They defy God's Word to their own doom. And I have all that power with me because to me it is life everlasting. The sword that guards the way to the tree of life is in my hand. It doesn't point at me. Or you, for that matter. We are they that love the Lord. And we have the gospel armor, which includes a sword. Which is the word. And you must be skillful in the word of righteousness, right? It says he is unskillful. And so you can't just take these verses and batter people with them. You can't take the flat end of the sword and smack people in the face. It's not an effective way of piercing their hearts, metaphorically. Killing people and bringing people back to life. That's the power of the word. Because it kills, it makes alive, just like God himself. According to God's will. Of course, when I say all those things, I mean it according to his will, because I am his servant. I just do what he wants me to do, preferably. That's the idea. Right, that is the hope. Not just the hope, that is the mission. Deceit is in the heart, and my hope is only in Christ. I have no hope in my works or anything like that. That's just the mission I'm on. Like that. So deceit is on the heart of them that imagine evil. Yeah, if you imagine to do evil, you have to think of a way to deceive people about it. Of course. But to the counselors of peace is joy. Yeah. And again, to me, people, they try to justify their lies and deception, especially I've had a Bible study censored by the government. I can't wait. I gotta take a moment and put they took it down. I'm gonna put it back up. I'm gonna censor all the parts about that may have violated terms. It probably violated terms. I don't care. I'm a religious figure. And I'm reporting rumors. So what? The idea that and the government comes down in this tiny little Bible study, they're censoring it. That really makes me angry. I've said this before. I don't know if I said it in the study, but I've said it elsewhere. I'm dedicating the rest of my life to the people who have took it upon themselves to censor us in America. We're going to retroactively punish those people. We're going to pass laws, and then we're going to find them and put them in prison because they have violated the Constitution. They are domestic enemies of America. The censorship industrial complex must be brought down, and those involved in it, especially those who are working for the government, must be imprisoned with harsh sentences. That's what I want to see happen if the world goes on. That may never happen. Instead, we may all be going to jail. Instead, of course, right? Because for daring to speak against their truth. But they act as if they're looking out for us, but we know that the truth is they're greedy monsters that lie about their motivations because they fear not God. They don't need to worry. They can lie to you. What's it matter? All that matters is that they win in the end. Unfortunately, they won't win in the end. Or fortunately, from my perspective, they will not win. The deceitful heart will be destroyed. It will be burned in the lake of fire. And those that counsel peace, there's joy evermore, everlasting in the Holy Ghost. I tell you that. There shall no evil happen to the just. Of course, look at Jesus, right? The cross wasn't exactly a pleasant experience. It was an evil thing. People say, oh, no, it can't contradict. It's like, just relax, okay? Because it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that you can't suffer anything. Paul says, don't be amazed at the fiery trial that you go through. It's as if some strange thing was happening to you. I think that was Paul. Might have been one of the other apostles. There's fiery trials that come to our life. And the thing is, as a Christian, as the justified ones, because the only persons who are really just ever, I mean, because Solomon is speaking in absolutes, right? And absolutes that don't work for real people. I mean, real people aren't absolutely just to the extent that God would be like, well, I won't let any evil happen to them. You know what I mean? I won't allow any evil. When you think about the guys like Job, where God had offense about him. But, and he had not, and what was done to him was not done for his sins. But if you look at the way the Lord speaks to him, the Lord has somewhat against him, as far as in the sense that Job feared God, in a sense, and all that he did was done out of that fear. But we need to go on from fear to embrace him, because that's what the fear should do. It's like, well, wait, I don't want to cross God by being by filling the world with my mischief, my evil works. Look what mischief is. It's probably something like the device or whatever, right? We'll figure it out in a second. But nothing evil can happen to the just, because all things work together for good for those that love God. So ultimately, when you have the blood of Christ on you, and that justice, and you have that justification, is what I'm trying to say. When you are justified by grace through faith, nothing can really hurt you ever again. You may die, you may have an injury, you may be physically harmed in some way, but it is only working together for good to play out the ultimate story of your life, which ends with your resurrection and glorification in Christ. So nothing, literally nothing, no evil can happen to the just. There's no evil that can befall you. Evil is the loss of good. You know what I mean? Like if my hand gets cut off, that's evil, because I can't use a hand anymore, and I had good purposes for that. Hopefully, right? I mean, I do. I play my guitar and stuff. I make things on my computer, and mostly all good things. I mean, some things they're just, it's like Paul making tents. It's like it's not good or bad. It's just the fruit of your labor. Something we make just for passing through this world, just like feeding the body and clothing it. It's a temporary thing. Nothing you're doing about it is supposed to be forever. It's just part of that necessity of existence. Okay, so there shall no evil happen. Ultimately, we have no fears. Now, we may live in fear, but we have to adjust that by understanding. And by growing closer to the Lord, and by growing in faith, you have the confidence to know that, no, nothing is really going to hurt me. And that's fine to say, but like I said, in my daily experience, it doesn't ever feel like that. I mean, rarely. Sometimes I can remind myself. That's why I study the Bible every day, so I can remind myself constantly of the Lord's deliverance, of the Lord's provision, of His, of His foreknowledge, and the fact that He's looking out for me. And whatever I'm going through, it's just, it is part of. I can see how it makes me a bigger man. I guess. I'm not, I don't know. I confess, it's like, I have never been so dedicated to myself as the Lord is. As far as to my reformation. And sometimes I'm a little bit like, oh, maybe this is good enough, Lord. And I would love to ease up. But let's not ease up till we get to the kingdom, huh? The Lord, He said He would not drink it again till He drinks it with us in the kingdom. Anyways, so the wicked should be filled with mischief. I wanted to look at that word. I'm just curious which one it is. Okay. All right, there we go. Verse 21, 22, something like that. 21. Mischief is, it's just Ra. And that, which is, interesting. So I assumed evil was Ra'ah in the first case. No evil shall happen to the just, was this word, which is a normal word for evil. But it's Aven, the first word. Trouble, sorrow, wickedness. Again, it has a few different ways they translate. They translate it mostly iniquity, if you notice, in the NASB. 37 times it's translated iniquity. Unfortunately, the King James, when they show us the ways it's translated, it doesn't say how many. But the numbers are actually, I think it's the first or no? Or this is the order of occurrence? I forget. Anyways, it's translated affliction. That can't be the number one thing. Sometimes it's translated evil, like here about sometimes idle, iniquity, mischief, which is a little bit. This is the one that meant to exert oneself in vain. And so aven is a much stronger word of emptiness than just mere evil as something bad that happens to you. I mean, yes, small evils may befall you. That's what I was sort of saying is that, something. That's why the wicked, they are compassed, they are filled with evil. Ra'ah. That means ultimate loss, ultimate, that's not what Ra indicates, but what it means in this context is that ultimately they don't, their lives are swallowed up by this evil. And it's the evil that comes to all, death. And that is the greatest evil that befalls all men. Is like when you die, you've lost everything. You can't enjoy the love of your family. You can't enjoy anything. You just get nothing. Except after the judgment, except you stand before God and then be judged, and potentially there's something there for you, probably punishment. Unless because it's like, unless we reconcile ourselves to him, or unless there's something I don't know about that white throne. Like I said, it's like, I ain't taking my chances with the white throne. I'm going to go to the judgment seat of Christ ahead of time. Like we already have. That's why we talk about being saved, because we have that promise of salvation, and it's made sure in Christ. When you receive the Holy Spirit is like that seal. Everything you do, like I said, I talk about doing things. Following, it says, anoint people with oil who are sick. Go ahead. Do you have to? No, you don't have to, but you could. It would be an act of faith. See. All right. We shall be filled with mischief. Notice on one side, there's no evil that happens to us. There's no aven. There's no ultimate emptiness, nothingness, worthlessness. The emptiness of idolatry. Because some people would act as though our devotion to God is no different than those who are, than any other religion, right? It's all the same. Well, they're all reaching after the same thing. They're all blindly groping after the same thing. Some less blindly than others. That's why we have, the world's great religions, which are, not all of them, but, the Western ones, which I include Islam, are derivative of each other. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam are derivative religions, essentially. Because Muhammad incorporates Christ into his, conceptualization of God and all that. Lying lips are an abomination to the Lord, but they deal truly are his delight. This is one I point this verse out all the time. God finds our lies to be abominable. So when you say, if you're going to exclaim that a particular sin is an abomination, that's not a particularly high bar. You know what I mean? Like, homosexuality, it's an abomination. So are lying lips. Just saying. Say, well, some things, you will put away the evil from among you. Yeah, well, perjury is a pretty serious crime. You can cause someone to be put to death. You know what I mean? And so, we got to deal truly. We have to be true men. A prudent man concealeth knowledge. Again, through prudence, sometimes there's information you do not give, like Jesus. He did not give them every bit of information he had at every moment, not to every one. And I'm not saying, not that being secretive as such is we want to live in the light. We want to walk in the light. And part of that is walking uprightly. But there are things in knowledge that should be kept under wraps. And sometimes, I don't like to, like I said, as a person who is trained, as a person who is I coach young people for many years, and I'm trained to recognize when adults are, when I see grooming behaviors and stuff like that. And there are certain things, certain kinds of sexual abuse and stuff that I am required to report. Everyone is, really, because it's the law. If you, or especially if you're, for some people, they have a legal obligation. But I think well, when you see certain things, you have to. And I'm not saying. So when I talk about keeping things under a wrap, I don't mean like dark secrets, like Mr. So and So is molesting the children. Definitely not. But sometimes people get into that mentality. Like in the Catholic Church, well, we wouldn't want anything bad to happen to the church, so we'll just conceal the matter. And they think they're being prudent, right? But instead what they're doing is they're treasuring up wrath for later, for when it all eventually comes out, because there's nothing hidden that will not be revealed, that will not be come to light, that is not going to go to the judgment. And I don't just mean in this world, maybe in this world, maybe not. There are a lot of bodies hidden in places, and the Lord knows where they're all buried. And he knows who put them there. And he is certainly going to execute vengeance on them. Oh, yes. So there are things to be considered. What's an example? Well, let's say someone has a whatever. Well, like, let's say a child has some sort of deformity or disability. It's maybe not, you don't necessarily want to tell everyone about it. These days it's like, oh, we got to declare like maybe they just want to be a regular kid and not be singled out for something that otherwise people don't need to know about. Things like that. You know what I mean? And also it can apply to things like when there's serious things going on. Like I said, it's like, are there any Jews in your house? No Jews. I'm not hiding any Jews in my basement. No, sir. Because a prudent man hides knowledge, and sometimes people are just so anxious to say things. And, I tell you what, well, I definitely take this always seriously because I don't want to be a fool. And sometimes things present themselves to your mind to say. That's what some people, we have to have a filter. You know what I mean? Some people say, I don't have a filter. Well, it's like, well, you need to get one and develop one. It's important because we should not just proclaim everything. It's not always good. Especially when it's foolish. Now, fools, they come up with stupid things and they say stupid things. And I try not to say stupid things, but sometimes I have, I certainly recognize that. I've been a fool many times, I do think I err more on the side of, well, like I said, I would like to conceal knowledge properly. Most of my life, when I concealed something, it was because something embarrassing to me or something like that. It's like it's not a very good marker because I don't necessarily think that that's the purpose of that. It's more about being wise. Like I said, do you know where they are hiding? No, sir. Who's hiding or whatever. If you don't want to lie, there are ways to avoid lying, but people can detect that. If you're trying desperately not to lie and so you don't answer questions directly, so, it's a weird thing. Because God, lying lips is put right here, and then a prudent man conceals knowledge. And that's what I said. It's like, because it's a weird thing, because you don't talk. I feel like sometimes silence is almost like lying because I know the answers, because I could say the truth, but it's not necessarily so. Okay, the hand of the diligent shall bear rule. People that are busy and doing things and diligent about it, yeah, they end up in charge. But the slothful, they're under tribute. They're the ones who are paying taxes, or under tribute. Under tribute. This is and this is a much more brutal thing in the old days. Obviously, being under tribute would mean, you are subject to somebody else, usually under threat of violence. Truthfully, that's how it is in our country. If you don't pay your taxes, eventually people with guns will come and take your stuff. Potentially, they have such. They act not well. Potentially. Because like I said, it depends on how much money it is. If it's a few $100s, they may just snatch it out of your bank account. That's how my brother deals with his taxes. He literally just files his taxes and then waits for them to take the money, which is funny. Which they do. Because they have the power to do it. And so they just do it. And then they're like, okay, well, we got our money. And that's the point. It's like, but if, let's say there isn't money, and let's say you owe a lot and you own stuff, they will come and take it away with guns. So, you want to be diligent to be above that. You don't want to fall down that low. Like we talked about the poor here. That was that in the next one? Yeah. I thought that verse was very, not very connected, but, like this whole ransom of a man's life are his riches, and the poor of the poverty and all that they don't understand. Or what was it said? They hear not rebuke. There's a certain sort of rebuke in poverty, right? That says, hey, you rumbling stomach, you want to get ahead? Well, be diligent, because some men's, like I said, I do consider, there was that verse right before that, right? This one. There is that maketh himself rich, yet hath nothing. There is that maketh himself poor, yet hath great riches. That's sort of my life, the second half of that verse. And so, I'm not really poor. Like I always say, I'm not really poor. I'm just poor on paper, because I don't have a lot of cash, basically. I don't have any cash. I have 3 figures. That's it. It's like, maybe less than that now. Actually, let's see. We're down to 2 figures. Whatever, I'm not going to go into banking now. But anyways, they'll be going up again. They'll get back up to 3. And maybe 4 eventually here in a little couple of weeks, right? At least for a moment. I got to, because the bills got to be paid. Right? And so, we don't want, again, we're all pay our taxes in this country, in a sense, except for the rich, right? And they're on top, and they don't pay tax, right? It's, just like Joe Biden's son, he didn't pay taxes on all those millions of dollars he got overseas or whatever. And he gets a slap on the wrist. They don't take his stuff. He's not under tribute. He's not in any trouble for all that. No, he's an important son. He's not important. He's just the son of somebody who's whatever. Important. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know, it's kind of a merciless verse. I'm not really a fond of it. As far as, like, if we look at it just in the sense of, like, see, you're all slothful. That's why you pay taxes. The diligent people on top. So, because when I look at, here's the thing. When the wicked are allowed to get out of control, things become upside down. They get flipped over. So, yeah, no. It's some Proverbs and things like these truths become untruths, right? The diligent are under tribute and the slothful bear rule over them. That's a perversion of how things ought to be, how things generally work. And they can only be perverted by the amassing of power to the evil and wicked people in this world. When they amass power, they can pervert the natural order of things. Because we don't allow, like when you take all the people who have their small businesses and put them out of business during the pandemic to jack up Walmart and Amazon and all those other big companies and to create more billionaires in a few years than existed prior to that, because there's just cash. People find a way to put their straw into that stream of cash and they just siphon it off, right? Meantime, you're like, I'm paying twice as much for food. Like I started making more money during after the pandemic, not during. But it didn't matter. I'm in worse shape than ever because I have to come up with way more money. Like I used to spend about $1,500 a month on food for my big family. It's about $3,000 now. And so gets to maybe not quite 3,000, but it's at least 2 plus. No, it's 2. It's 2,500. I would say. Yeah. I don't know. I don't like to. I haven't budgeted it or anything. I don't like to think about it because I just go to the grocery store and do it. I got too much else to do. Yeah. So the world is perverted and upside down. That's why this verse seems a little bit off. It should be this way. And and in the microcosm of things, like in your local situation, you see it when people who don't want to work and do anything, they end up with nothing. Well, like I said, our world is perverted because they're going to give them, they'd probably like to give them some money for doing nothing, give them universal basic income for doing nothing. That way they can they can make they can work on their video game career. Their career as a professional video game player. They could maybe spend some time working on their skills and while they get that money coming in, like I said, when the world goes wicked, the truth becomes perverted. Woe to them that call evil good and good evil. They put darkness for light and light for darkness. They make a man offender for a word. Heaviness in the heart of man maketh it stoop, but a good word maketh it glad. Yeah. It's just part of, it's good. Sometimes the right word at the right time, it can be very uplifting, right? So that's more just an observational thing, isn't it? I mean, they're all kind of observational, because generally he looks around. So look at the diligent bear rule. The slothful are under tribute. Heaviness in the heart makes it stoop, but good words make it glad. The righteous is more excellent than his neighbor. This verse is something, the last, I don't really see what to add to that. It's very, it's like, and go and do so. Speak a good word in season to lift up people, and et cetera. What should we do in light of this wisdom as Christians would be your question, right? The righteous is more excellent than his neighbor, but the way of the wicked seduceth them. What's that mean? Well, the neighbor looks at the righteous and they see the righteousness and they see that they're better than them. But they look at the way of the wicked and that seduces them because it looks easier. People are more envious of the wicked than of the righteous. You know what I mean? Like the righteous may be a more excellent, I should probably look at that in Hebrew. Let's check that out. Let's take a look at that before we start going too far about that. Because I was like, more excellent, tour. Okay, that's weird. Than his neighbor, friend, companion, fellow. The righteous. This is Sadak. All right, so we're not going to look at that, but we're going to look at tour, which weirdly, and it's pronounced tour, and like our English word tour, it kind of means to explore, to seek out, spy out, explore. They're not related, of course. Hebrew and English are not related languages. It's a primitive root, but in every language there's sometimes, because there's only so many human noises. Every once in a while, words kind of line up like that. It's kind of interesting. Tour, okay. To seek out, spy out, explore. And I think what they're saying is he's more excellent, meaning this is an example of the King James translators doing a bit of interpretation. Because it's sort of like to seek out, right? They watch and observe the righteous. The righteous is more sought out, right, than his neighbor. He's more, maybe that's what it means, like, in that sense of he is sought out, in demand, right? People, because, I don't know if you deal with communities, which some people do. I kind of not big about it, but I have kids and sometimes I encounter community type things. And you have your upstanding pillar of the community types, right? And a lot of times people know a lot. Oh, yeah, that's Joe. He does all this, and he's over there, and he's with the kids, and he's all that, And people know about it, and they admire it. But at the same time, but the way of the wicked is seductive. They can look at the excellence of the righteous. But in some ways, a lot of people say like, well, I don't know. Could I be like that? Could I be that guy who's just doing things for everybody? And, could I do that? Or, am I the type of person who looks at the wicked and says like, that's the way for me, that shortcut. I want to get rich quick for myself, I guess I guess it can be seductive when you just think of all the positive aspects of it, the pleasures, the money, the good dining, I guess cars and hotels and planes and things, I guess, whatever. For those who covet after such things, vacations. I was thinking because my mother was always very much distraught if she couldn't have her vacations, and her nails done and things like that. She had these certain things that were very important to her. And I think, to me, there are things that are not, But when people look at like the rich and famous doing things, they envy them and they think, could I find some easy way to this? And it's seductive. That's why you have young people. Every year I'm sure thousands and thousands of beautiful young women go out to California to try to become actresses. And most of them will never become an actress, and many of them will be seduced into other things, the other kinds of acting. Of course, they don't have to go to California anymore for that, since everyone's got their own, everyone's streaming their own thing, just like this. This is just an example of what everyone is now capable of, even a poor person like me. But people, and that's another thing. Like, young girls are being seduced into the way of the wicked. Because they'll think, like, hey, I can just take my clothes off online, and that'll be a way I can make money. It's a way you empty yourself of human value, and you you completely objectify yourself. You're like, oh no, it's like, and also, there's thousands and thousands of girls already doing that. You're gonna degrade yourself and find out it's not as easy to make all that money as you thought. Being a prostitute, because that's what it is. Pornography is prostitution with a camera. That's it. That is it. It's just a camera involved. As soon as you involve a camera, you can pay someone to do anything. Because you say, you're an actor, I want to make a movie. I'm sure it's a bit thin on some level, but I don't know, that loophole. Because when they allowed basically pornography, when the Supreme Court upheld or whatever court upheld the Larry Flint case years ago, that allowed smut to be sold around the country and stuff, which had previously been pretty much contraband, and made all kinds of pornography just now, started creeping up in, like, in the back room of the video store. When I was a kid, and it was on the magazine rack at the liquor store and some convenience stores in the back, not always right up front where you could get at it. But, it was harder. But now, the seductive nature of the ways of the wicked are more apparent to people. Young girls see it. They see, they're told they can make money this way and, this and that. And I'm sure some do. But, you don't consider, like, I always say every woman who takes her clothes off for a camera is essentially she's potentially doing this in front of a child. In fact, I would almost, you can pretty much assume you're doing it in front of a child because of the way, because parents give their children a phone, which is like obscene because the phones have access immediately to the internet, and it's like a coffee table. Whatever someone said, that it's like there's just tons of pornography out there, and kids are going to be seduced by it if you allow it. There are ways to you gotta make sure don't give them a private area to look at computers and things like that. You should try. People need privacy and stuff. To some degree, I don't know. I don't get much, so I don't know. Sometimes I do need to have it to write music, but that's about it. I remember once I to pray, and I go off alone to pray, but that doesn't require necessarily like closing doors and hiding out places with things I shouldn't be, But we should not, or whatever. Don't be seduced by the way of the wicked. It's like the dark side of the force. It seems like an easier, faster way to get the things you want, which is happiness. But it's actually the things it's offering you do not make happy. They only give a moment of pleasure, and then you must recreate that over and over again to maintain that feeling. And ultimately, it becomes empty and hollow. It's like and also about sex. It's like you will never. These people who run around having these serial relations, you'll never have the kind because they don't know. They haven't been married 30 years, so they don't know how well you can develop as a couple in that time, and they're absolutely in the dark. and they never will achieve the enjoyment that I have achieved, and I pity them in that. They're fools. I mean, they run around thinking that this is, like you go to a prostitute to shortcut your way to pleasure, you're a fool. You're a fool. The slothful man roasteth not what he took. He just, I think the idea is that he hunts something and he doesn't even cook it. Not that, he shoots at something and just leaves it. Just waste. That's what it sounds like to me. I guess he could have left it for someone else to take. I don't know. Yeah, but the substance of a diligent man is precious. I've always said, people are often like very much. I've been, one guy came over to my property once and he was just got on my nerves so much because he just kept grilling me like, why do you sell it? You could have money. He goes, money. Sell this, sell that, sell this. It's like, maybe, I have it for a reason. This is my substance, not your substance. And I'm going to decide how to dispose of it. It's just some, just because I have a significant amount of iron. A few, I don't know how much. Well, several tons, including cars but other stuff too, and it's just, I look at it as like it's something I'm doing something with. I'm not, it's not just wasting away there, which it's something I got plans for. And so it's like when you kill something like an animal, like you should take it and roast it and use that to get ahead. And there's work to be done. It's fun to hunt, but if you eat what you hunt, that's something that's a meal you don't have to buy. This is true. Like this morning, I generally all my life have been a licker of the plate. And I didn't lick my plate because it's taken me a long time as an adult to get used to eating eggs that aren't fully cooked. They taste better for sure than when you solidify that yolk till it's just this hard thing and it takes on that that flavor. I definitely like them like that, but sometimes it's like, licking up all the leftover goop on the thing. It's like not that appealing because I'm still sort of getting used to it. So I don't always do it. This is kind of grotesque, I guess, but whatever. I do lick the plate because you know why? Because my substance is precious. That's my meal. I want to make sure I take up every calorie. I don't want to throw it away. I want to take that nutritional value, put it into my body, and use it. And so that I don't, maybe if I eat every meal completely, I can have a smaller meal and then save food for other people who have to eat with me. A man who's working, everything, it is precious to me. Like I work on things, I work on my car, my time, it's precious. I try to use it for good, I don't like wasting it. Everything. Like everything you have. Like I said, it's like, again, I could sell that stuff for money. True. Not a lot of money, but it's like, I had other plans for it. It's like, I don't like them telling me what to do with my stuff. But the point is, I wouldn't just throw it away though, right? Because I know it's all of value. Some people would just say, this is junk, just throw it all away. And much of it, I do throw away junk. I'm not a hoarder or anything. So that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there's the things that you have that are substantial, that are the things that make life happen. There's nothing wrong with holding those things as precious. Yeah, I confess, like when I get ripped off at the grocery store, something like if I buy when I get something home and if I bought a pack of meat and I open up and it smells, I get really unhappy with that. I was going to say angry, which is more true. I do, because it's like, I think of my family. I think of how much money I have to spend on food, how I don't have an unlimited amount. And then I go there and they give me rotten food for my money. And so it's very, it can be upsetting, especially when you're poor, but diligent. And so we don't like to waste. I hate it. I've always hated it. And we weren't poor growing up, but I was always made to eat everything off the plate. And, and starving children in Biafra, my mom used to say. That's not a country anymore. It was, when I think about during the time it was just that time when I was a kid, though. Anyways, so like, I always had a clean the plate mentality. I still do. I feel guilty if I can't finish something, like I did something wrong. Because sometimes it's like you don't always, I always told my wife, make a smaller portion is all. Don't kill me with the food. She she would like to make sure I eat up hearty. I don't think she ever gives me too much. Well, maybe back in the day sometimes, and occasionally she'll give me more mashed potatoes than I'd like to have. But whatever. That's not a criticism. And the way of righteousness is life, and the pathway thereof there is no death, none. No death, none at all. Those that believe in me shall never die, Jesus said. Right? That's only true in the ultimate. And so, Solomon, this verse, like many of these in Proverbs, like I said, when I was going to do my thing on hell, I found tons of verses in Proverbs that I thought give us an idea. These are the Proverbs of Solomon. So what in Solomon's day, what did they think about death? What did they think about the reward for the righteous? What did they think about, what's the point of trying to keep the law? The law doesn't promise everlasting life, but in the wisdom of the wise, he perceives that righteousness, because sin is what caused man to fall. They would have known this. Some people think, well, the book of Genesis wasn't written until after Solomon. That's nuts. I really don't think so. Like I said, whatever. I'm not going to argue with archaeologists and stuff because they're not here. And so most of us aren't going to have a argument against that either because we believe in it. But anyways, what did they think? Well, they thought, just like David's Psalms, Psalm 22, there's this optimism that borders on faith in the resurrection. It borders on it for sure. Because it's sort of like saying, like, if you do what's right and you live according to God's precepts, there is something more. There is ultimately no real death. No death. And again, if we could walk a perfectly righteous life, maybe we'd find that out, right? But none of us has. Only Christ the righteous has truly walked that way. And we see through Christ that this is true because God raised him from the dead. He that was righteous and did no sin, we see that he rose. He rose. I've got the cloth in my a picture of it in my living room. He rose from the dead. Therefore, we know that those that do righteousness, there is no death. You can kill them, but they'll get up again. So that's not really dying, is it? Like if you kill me and for a few days I lay there but get back up, would you say I'm really dead? No. Would you say it really was that? It's like, well, you could say maybe he tasted death for a minute, but he didn't really see death, because seeing death would be like you didn't get up. Because a nice night's sleep where you don't remember anything because you didn't dream, it's kind of like tasting death, actually. Except for the first part, you don't have to actually die. Though you could die completely unaware of it. I assume people pass away in their sleep, right? That would be a nice way to die, I suppose. I think my grandmother said her father died in his sleep. Okay, so a wise son heareth his father's instruction, but a scorner heareth not rebuke. I'm thankful that my children all listen to me. They were imbued. They are imbued with wisdom because they listen. And you know what? A wise father, like it says in the New Testament, provoke not your children to wrath. There are ways in which a father, through his authority, can provoke them. By being overly authoritarian. Like I said, just because I'm in charge doesn't mean I make all the decisions. I don't want to make all the decisions. That's crazy. My wife and I are going to split that up based on our skill sets. She makes all the decisions about what we eat all the time. Now, a while ago, we talked years ago, and I said, look, I don't want to, can we adjust this and that and the other? And, as far as what I like to eat. But that wasn't even, she was always eager to please me. So it wasn't like we were arguing or anything. It was just like, I don't like that. And this I do. But she's in charge. She makes the decisions. I don't make decisions about what are we going to eat tomorrow? I'm thankful because I don't want to make those decisions. What are the children going to wear? What are this and maybe other things too. Maybe you can delegate your wife the entire checkbook as far as I'm concerned. I don't, but that's because my wife stopped driving, and so I had to have the checkbook. So, but I think that's perfectly fine. You can give her control of the finances if you trust your wife and think she's good at it. I don't see any problem with that. You can delegate any number of things. It's because she's probably going to want you to focus on what you're best at. I mean, that's what you should focus on, being the man you are, not trying to be everything. And so when we don't want to provoke, a lot of times teenagers and adults come into conflict. And I think the biggest cause of the conflict is the existence of elementary school, where, from the very beginning, the Prussians conceived of kindergarten there as a way to break the mother-child bond and to start the child on his pathway to being a proper soldier of the state. And so we put them into these regimented things, into these classes. When they graduate, they just right into the military practically. It's like, it's perfect. We get them all into order. Now, the old model had been a one-room school with a teacher and maybe 25 kids of varying ages, 30 kids maybe, I don't know, of varying ages. And I think, if you think about that, if you had equal cohorts of all the way down, like 2 or 3 from each age group, wow, that's really interesting. I think it is, because that's similar to what we had in homeschooling with 8 kids. And we found it worked really well. The older kids helped read to the younger ones, helped instruct them, helped them along with the things. It helped them mature and become, it is good for older children to deal with younger children and to learn to be patient with younger children, because they kind of have to, because they are older. And these kind of things, this is how you really socialize children, is to get them to be sympathetic to people that are their inferiors, instead of putting them in this rat race where it's all on the same grade. They're all the same age. It's like the Lord of the Flies, and they're all pecking at each other to who's the best, who's the first, But instead, if you just have 2 or 3 kids, and then it's like, oh, well, and then above them, say you're a first grader, and there's all these kids above you in your class who are right there. And instead of letting the second graders pick on you, the fourth graders are like, no, you don't pick on the new kids, cut it out. And it keeps peace, because all the way down the line, everyone knows who's in authority over them. Because in my house, I was very strict in this. First, the oldest rides in front. Always, always, always. That's the rule. No exceptions. No arguments either. Never had to deal with kids fighting about the front seat, because it was always the privilege of the oldest child in the car to sit there, or their mother, of course. And so that was one of the ways in which it was kind of like a simple rule, but it was a rule that I used to make people, one, respect, and that, and this had to be laid down at times with instruction. You will respect your older brother. You will be kind to your younger sibling. These are things that must be done. And you know what? They understood the necessity of such things, because they lived in the house where this needed to be. In school, no one explains to people, oh, you got to get along. It's like, I guess, but it's like there's so much, one woman and 37-year-olds. That's not an easy way to raise kids. Give her a bunch of teenagers to work with who have also been raised in the same system. You'll see a totally different result. That's why we used to be one of the top nations, but we moved to modern education, and it's been nothing but a nosedive. Anyways, I don't mind high school so much, because it's again, because it's not like just one lady, and the kids are more ready. You don't have to get them all the way through high school. You could have them up through junior high even, or whatever, or even the 6th grade. Even you could, because 6th graders can be awfully useful. They're just about teenagers. They're pretty handy, So I could even see a 6th grade through K kind of thing where you just got maybe 4 of each, That's what I think would be a better elementary school type of thing. They could even do it in the same buildings, actually, Give them little team names and stuff, and, and they could all compete with each other and have, whatever. Well, they could still have sports. They could come out of their little class and join into others for sports and other activities and clubs. For years I've been thinking about, okay, Paul, well, what's the solution? You don't like school. So that's what I think. I think the old model was better. Or something along that line. Maybe we think about it and change things thoughtfully instead of just, like I said, this is a system that was implemented by some of the most militaristic, ungodly minds of humanity. Who want to strip children of their familial allegiance to make them useful soldiers and cogs in the wheel of the state and factory workers. Instead of being people who think for themselves, who have substance, who can, children who can talk with adults intelligently. A good man. So what verse? Okay, so provoking your children to wrath. Like I said, the separation that school creates means that you don't really know your kids, and you end up like trying to force. A lot of times parents sense something going wrong between them, and they sense this drift as they become teenagers and they start becoming adult. Like the separation to the child becomes very real, and because their life is they've been working for years on this life that's separate from their family, where they spend 8 hours a day. It's like being at your employer with all these other people. And there are things there and things here, and when the parent interjects himself, if they're not always part of it, because a lot of people do a good job. When I see parents who have the least conflicts they're the most involved in a positive way. Okay, there's negative involvement too. You can get too into your kids' stuff and also cause wrath. Well, especially by doing it suddenly and like, oh, well, I sense a problem, so now I'm going to fix it by inserting myself more into the child's life. And then when they react with a very negative reaction to me, the adults often get frustrated and angry, and then they start to do things that maybe are not wise. Like I said, you have to, if you want to have a good relationship with your kids, you have to raise them. I'm sorry, you can't just give them to someone else and expect that to turn out right. What? Maybe it'll turn out okay. Maybe your kids won't hate you. I don't know. I'm just saying, it's like, I can't guarantee it's going to turn out right. I don't know. If you don't take some hand in raising your kids, like I said, if they're in school, when they're not, you better be busy with them. Because it's like just they coming home from their job and you coming home from your job. If you think that makes you bonded in some way, it doesn't. And then when you try to weirdly interject yourself into their life, which is so separate from yours, you'll find, get away from me. They do not want you in there. I know this that was my life. My parents could sense something. They want to get in. I'm like, no, this is my space. You're not part of my life. Whoa, wait, no. You've been separating me for years. And you want to come in? This is uncomfortable to me. A man shall eat good by the fruit of his mouth. What's a scorner anyways? I'm just looking it up in the Bible thingadoodly. BibleHub.com, which I advertise for all the time. They don't pay me, by the way. That's not a paid promotion. I just use it, so that's... Like I said, I think for them that's free advertising. Like I said, this is an academic setting, so all that is fair use here, right? Not academic setting per se, but, well, sort of. This is a teaching setting. The purpose is education. We're not reprinting this. We're just using the tool. Okay. With all those disclaimers. A man shall eat good by the fruit of his... Oh, no, wait. Scorner is Lutz. We had that one before. The mocker, right? The guy who's like the ambassador, like someone's talking from a foreign country. Interpreter, to make a mocker. We saw this word way back. And then gira, which is the rebuke. Okay, rebuke, fine. I didn't think there was anything special about that. Yeah, the mocker they don't hear rebuke because they don't. Yeah. Yap, 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 yap. Don't do this. Don't do that. You know what? I'm going to go have fun. See ya. Right? Mockers don't hear rebuke. And a good way to turn your kid into a mocker is to let them run with a bunch of godless kids at school. And who mock and who don't believe, you know. I remember watching a friend who was a believer and didn't become an unbeliever, but because of the force of the friends around us who used to use the name of Jesus as just as a sentence enhancer, much the way you would use a curse word. You know, I mean, they took up the Lord's name lightly for everything. Like they'd be like, "Hey, remember those burgers?" And they'd be like, "Jesus," you know. They'd love to say his name all the time. They'd be like, "Jesus," you know, like they would just have this thing they would constantly do. And they thought that it was a little inside joke, and they were funny. I never participated in that joke. I never did. I wouldn't, because my dad way too firmly ingrained in me not to. You know, I call in the name of Jesus, not in vain. And but I watched a Christian friend of mine. He couldn't help himself. He got sucked into it. I remember, and he did it in front of his dad. And boy, his dad, I think he told me his dad didn't care for that. He said, "You find another word," is what he said to him. Because in the old generation, at least in the people, you know, the regular church-going folks didn't have much truck with that kind of talk. Okay, so let's do the last proverb we just read, which was 2 of this chapter, and we'll wrap it up. I think I need to do 2 and 3, and then we'll call that done for today. A man shall eat good by the fruit of his mouth, but the soul of the transgressor shall eat violence. I love that. Eat violence. He that keepeth his mouth keepeth his life, but he that openeth his lips shall have destruction. There you go, kind of the same thing. Well, not the same thing, but you know, a similar idea that the fruit of the things that come out of your mouth are, you know, like it says, you can't produce fruit without opening your mouth. You know, this is not keeping silent. So you can eat good by the fruit of your lips. People do make a living. But also, it's not just that. Well, in the way you deal with people, when you deal correctly, you know, again, if a man shall eat good by the fruit of his mouth, assuming, how is that going to come to be? Well, whatever it said about the fruit of the lips, he speaks truthfully. Right? Or actually, I like the way it says, he deals truly. Those that deal truly. You know? They eat good because of the fruit of their mouth. And I think in the sense of, like when I say good things, when I teach good things, when I believe good things, when good things come out of my mouth, and I live by them, I get the good. When I say to you, this is how you live, and when you live this way, it's good. It's true. You know, I'm telling you the truth. And I eat well from this truth. You know what I mean? And I don't mean like I eat food. I mean the truth that comes out of my mouth is the food I eat. You know what I mean? Meaning that, you know, like the consequence. It's just like it says, the soul of the transgressors shall eat violence. See, those who do not transgress eat good by the fruit of their mouth, and the soul of the transgressors eat violence. Well, whatever. To eat violence obviously is a metaphor or more of an idiom, isn't it? Or whatever. I guess it's a metaphor. It's like eating violence, but it's not eating, of course, not literally eating, but it is just like it says, you know, we have the same idiom today, like you got to eat it. Like you're going to eat that. And I don't mean like food. I mean, you know, you did that, so you're going to take the consequences, right? Those that transgress are going to have the consequences. They're going to eat them up. It's like that cup. You shall surely drink. And just like a man whose mouth is fruitful in a good way, obviously implied, right? He's going to eat good. Meaning he's going to have good things in his life because of the things he says. You know, like I taught a Bible study and I found a good woman for a wife, you know. I spoke of the Lord and I turned the heads of the right women. The right woman, I mean, you know, whatever. But the right kinds of girls, you know, right, would be, you got to look at you got to start looking at the right kinds of girls before you find the right kind. Because not everyone is going to match up with everybody, even if we're all Christians, right? You know, we're not necessarily personality well gelling together. But it is from among those girls, if you're a guy or guys, if you're a girl, you should be looking among them. If you want to have good, and then when you're among them, to continue to speak good. Don't speak perverse things. You know, he that keepeth his mouth keepeth his life. But he that openeth wide his lips shall have destruction. Okay, but unless you need to open your mouth, because you want to eat good. Speaking the truth in due season is essential. You know, we have to speak the truth. But but again, there's a certain time. The proverb is not untrue. Sometimes people open up their mouth, and it gets them killed. And the Lord Jesus himself, he opened not his mouth in protest, but they asked him, "Are you the Son of God?" And he says, "I am." And they killed him. Now, I don't think this was talking about. Well, but again, because Christ ultimately kept his life, didn't he? Yes, they may have thought him worthy of death, but because no evil can come upon the just, none, as we read in the other, that is, and in the way of righteousness is life, and life only. Life only. He kept his life because it could not be taken from him. Like it says, I lay it down and I take it up again. No man taketh it from me. He that keepeth his mouth keepeth his life, but he that openeth wide his lips shall have destruction. Well, yeah. Like I said, there's a time to keep silence. There's some things you should keep secret. You should not reveal everything. We should definitely be cautious. But again, like I said, like I don't want to be silent when I should speak up. But it is a caution, but the truth is, he that speaks puts himself in danger. It shouldn't be so. Like when you speak the truth, this is why I'm getting messed up here once again. Because when the wicked are allowed to go wild, things become perverted. And so then those that speak the truth, like in Isaiah 29, where it talks about him that rebuketh in the gate. They make him the sinner, the one who's trying to tell everybody what's wrong. Like when people try to tell people, they're like, no, you shouldn't, like saying transitioning children is something that shouldn't be done. Well, there are people who argue you're abusing children. That's exactly upside down. It's perverse. And at the top of society, we have people that believe that way. From the president, they believe that if you do not, that somehow it's child abuse to not entertain a child's fantasies, which is insane. Insane. And those people also, honestly, there should be laws passed and retroactively, literally say, if anyone ever thinks to do this again, they need to know that this is what happens. You go to jail. You go to jail. Even, because that's what they did in World War II. They hung doctors for crimes that were not illegal. They hadn't been made illegal. There's like, well, you know what? This is so evil. You shouldn't. Like, we don't make certain things illegal because we don't need to, right? We don't need to pass a law against, well, you can't skin someone alive, Obviously, there's other things that cover that, but we don't have a specific law for certain things, right? Because it's not necessary. Well, just like we have the Bill of Rights, right? There's no law that I know of, right, that covers, well, what do we do if someone in the federal government actually denies someone's free speech, which has been done to me, They deny them their free speech. What happens to that person in government? There's actually nothing. There's no law. There's no penalty. As far as I know, I don't know of any. We need those laws and penalties, and then we need to apply them retroactively. So all the people in government who are currently censoring should live in fear, because we're going to come get you. Okay? We're going to cut with the law. With the law. It's got to be by the law. That's how it should be done. And all of them, all of them. Everyone who's involved needs to be prosecuted. To whatever degree you're responsible. But, it's like, I don't know how harsh the penalty should be, but it's like, you know what? They should have some consequence. There's no way you should be able to get away with that. Not in this country. And we need laws. Okay, whatever. But my point, was that a point about anything? Well, it was originally related, but I don't remember how anymore. Oh, because of the perversity of our society, right. Because if you say things that are inconvenient to the state, they call that evil. And they don't call it that, but they call it misinformation or disinformation or whatever, and then they censor you. Even if it's true. Especially if it's true, actually, right? I mean, what's the point in censoring things that are false? Who cares? Like I said, on the news, you don't get fired for lying. You get fired for telling the truth. That's why Tucker Carlson got fired. He told the truth too often. He told it so often that they fired him. Like, you can't have that. Those people are just supposed to be puppets. I don't know if you remember years ago, I did a little cartoon with my brother in support of Rand Paul, a song. We did the Puppet Show to the theme of the Muppet Show. We had all the news media figures in there, doing their thing, being puppets, and just mouthing what they're supposed to mouth. It's like, that's creepy. Keeping your mouth also means keeping it from lying, keeping it from falsehood, keeping your tongue from being an abomination to God. Yeah. There's a lot of abominations running around this world. I'll tell you what. There's a lot of lying tongues. And that's what, the Lord is not, the Lord is not slothful, as some men count slackness. He's not going to forget about his promise. No, he isn't. It's just been a bit. Maybe it's going to be a bit more. I don't know. It'd be wild to live through the end, I got to say. It's something I looked forward to in my youth. I learned to dread in my middle age. And then, I don't know, in my old age, I should enter into it. Not my old age. Whatever. I'd rather enter into it in my old age. Actually, I'd rather be like 80 or 90 or something like that, so I could be like Moses or something. I'm silly. But, yeah. We live in perverse times where the U.S. government is censoring religious speech. Whatever. I'm a religious person talking about religion, and if I say something that they don't like about a doctor or a medical treatment, apparently they can just tell YouTube to take that down. Yeah, whoever's my minder, I'm going to find out. We're going to come for you someday. We are going to find out who you are. Just like the Twitter files, it's all coming out into the light. You can't hide. Can't hide. Yep. No, because that's America, man. America will always be America, and we will not. These enemies in our country are not going to be allowed to prosper like that. Because you cannot, well, whatever. They want to pervert truth and stuff. Well, they'll have a fight. They'll have a fight. But I always believe in us winning. Unless Satan himself opposes, It was given to him to make war with the saints. Well, let's see what you can do. Because I don't think anyone else can make war with us. I mean, not according to our warfare. If you take up the sword and be a crusader, you're going to get killed, okay? Don't do that. I mean the literal sword. I mean the machine gun. I mean the M16. Just a faster way to get killed. And there's nothing righteous in that death. I want to speak the truth and get killed for that. That is a righteous way to die. That is a Christian warrior's death. He dies with his sword in his hand, with the word of God on his lips. Anyways, so thanks for joining me. It's going to be a weird week, like I said. I think we'll have one tomorrow, right? It's Wednesday, and maybe I'll slip one in Thanksgiving morning. Who knows? problem is it's a lot busier here during that time, so we'll see. Anyways, thanks for joining me. Look forward to being back again tomorrow. Remember, the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. Jesus,
I will declare thy righteousness and thy works, for they shall not profit thee when thou criest, let thy companies deliver thee. But the wind shall carry them all away, vanity shall take them. But he that putteth his trust in me shall possess the land, shall inherit my holy mountain, and shall say,